Okay, people, time to talk about the third of the auspices, the Philodox, the half-moons, the judges, the mediators, the law. I don't know how you want to look at it, but a lot of people will look at them in that way. Okay, so what does it mean to be a Philodox? You are halfway between the no moon and the full moon. It is considered the most balanced of the 5 auspices. I think the majority of good alphas come out of the Philodox, and some of your best leaders come out of the Philodox. However, what is a good Philodox? Well, it's kind of a complex answer, because it does go into different categories depending on what we're talking about, what tribe, and so on. The Philodox judge and interpret the litany. That is one of their prime functions in Guru society. They tend to step aside when it comes to scandal, because that's handled by the Ragabash. But if it goes against one of those tenets of the litany, Guru shall not mate with Guru, the greatest in station enjoys to kill first, thou shalt not let a cairn be violated, respect, obey those of higher station, respect all those beneath you, all are of Gaia, you name it. The veil should not be lifted. I don't know how I forget that one all the time. They interpret that. If there's a question of, hey, did this person push the limits, it's going to be a Philodox that has territory. If there is a breaking of one of them, it is going to be a Philodox that judges on it. It will be a Philodox that decides on punishment. It'll be a Philodox that once they decree that it has happened, the Galliards will go and they will record the renown loss. The renown loss, now listen very carefully, the book has some criteria. They have some numbers in there. The LARP books have some very basic stuff. Tabletop books have a better array. The numbers you find in there are starting values. That's like the minimum. If a Philodox does not make any kind of decree, just says you have broken this tenet of the litany and walks away from it, and doesn't say anything about renown in general, now the Galliards know what to mark as a loss in renown for that person. They're going to go by that minimum. However, it is entirely possible for a Philodox to go beyond that. Okay, you suffer Berserk Frenzy. You lose a wisdom. You lose more if you injure a packmate, but what if you suffer Berserk Frenzy? Actually, that's not a good example, because this is Philodox I'm talking about. What's a good one? Well, let's go with the Berserk Frenzy. You suffer Berserk Frenzy, and because of what you did, you caused the veil to be lifted. Okay, so there is a renown loss for the veil itself, and there's also renown loss for suffering Berserk Frenzy. The Philodox might decide that you have suffered the renown loss for the breaking of the litany. They might turn around and give you a punishment right on top of it. Then they might turn around and go, and I'm judging because the Berserk Frenzy, which you normally lose 1 wisdom for, 1 temporary wisdom, jeopardized not only the litany, but perhaps made the mission fail, you're losing 5 wisdom. A Philodox can do that. Now, if a Philodox does something that's considered unfair, then the Ragbash can go and try to scandalize them. Okay. Outside of that, they're also the mediators. That's why they're usually the ones who occupy the role of truth catcher. They will, when 2 parties disagree about something that's not going to be handled via challenge pit or between themselves, they're going to be the ones who are going to sit down and come up with a solution. They're going to be the ones that are going to go and bash the Arun in the head who's insulted the spirits and try to drag them forward so they can make contrition, kiminage, or whatever needs to be done to said spirit. If the kinfolk have been affronted in a way that actually goes against the litany or in some way threatens the sept, it's going to be a Philodox that's going to drag people forth and take care of it. Hell, even some of the most feared people out there are Philodox. The judges of doom, the Shadow Lords, tend to be Philodox through and through. They make judgments based on what they find out. It's not always thorough. That's why there's two different camps, but if you want to know about that, go watch my damn Shadow Lords video. So they act as mediators. They act as alphas. They make for some of the best planning and some of the fairest decisions. They a lot of times represent a force of balance. Who better to represent a force of balance? And this goes right into the mediation deal. Between, say, the wide gap between Lupus and Hamid. The gap between Red Talon and Glasswalker, which is almost the same as the one I just mentioned. The gap between misogynistic Getafenerist and feminazi Black Furies. It's usually going to be the Philodox. Okay, what does that mean? That means Philodox come in a lot of sizes, variety, and color. You might have that one who is the quintessential. They've got all the punishment rites, therefore they got rituals, they've got the appropriate lores, they've got history, they've got Guru law, intimidation, leadership, they've got all of those. Fine. Then you got those negotiators that'll have empathy, subterfuge, investigation, various things that are going to affect mortals and whatnot. So it's kind of the role they play in society. The auspice gives them a wide variety of things they can do. They find their niche. Or one of my favorite movies out there was the movie Hero with Dustin Hoffman. They find their layer of bullshit and they get into it. Leave everybody else to their own layers of bullshit. So that's part of what Philodox do. What does this mean for them in combat situations? If you look at some of their stuff, a lot of their gifts aren't geared towards combat. But there are some that are. And those tend to be very, very effective gifts. Some of them affect them, some of them affect the enemy, some of them affect their friend. Excuse me. So, they also tend to be the ones that you find with all the pretty fetishes. Something I noticed when we were part of TGN is outside of the uber power gamers, it was the Philodox players that tended to get the good fetishes. If there was a clave that was in the possession of a non-metagamer, non-traditional Fianna, or non-traditional Silverfang, it was probably sitting in Philodox's possession. You know, when I saw the battle hammers of the Get, it was either Philodox or a rune. When you see weapons like that, for some reason they tend to fall to the Philodox. Why? Because the Philodox bridge that gap. And a rune is a furry ball of utter destruction. Galliards are not far behind. But you go all the way over to the Ragabash tend to be coyotes. They're going to nip at the heels, they're going to use ranged weapons, they're going to do various things that confound the enemy. Theurges, kind of similar, except that, they're going to be using spirits. Philodox are smack dab in the middle of that. They have to be able to do their furry ball of destruction bit, and they have to be able to think and start using other tactics. Therefore, they're going to have a wide array of abilities, and they're going to balance stuff out. In my opinion, it's probably one of the most underrated and valuable things to play. And when it is played, a lot of people cheapen it. When you play a Philodox, take a stand. Pick a subject, pick a crusade, a cause, a passion, and just roll with it. If you're all about the law, the Guru law, go for it. If you're all about punishing the wrongs, go for it. If you're all about everybody's going to be at peace with the spirits, go for it. Make that your identity. People remember you for it. It'll be a good character, and you can branch out into other things, and nobody will ever fault you for it. It is better to have a character that starts as what some people perceive as one-dimensional, and makes that dimension a huge dimension, and then has little sub-dimensions come off it to make it a well-rounded character, so that people see that it's, you see the point of that character, but as you get a better view, you realize they have a lot of depth. That is better than those characters that are just a big ball of glob that have no focus whatsoever. They have no identity, and they don't really mean much to people. I mean, hell, half the time I've seen players like that, and half the time this is what I get. Yeah, let's get to the Philodox. Get so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. Why are we getting him? He's Philodox. Is he? Oh, wow. What'd you think he was? I don't know. He's a Bonar, or he's a Glasswalker, or he's a Red Talon. I don't know what he is. How do you not know? I should be able to walk into a game and let's say I walk into a 20-person game and I meet all 20 of those characters, and I get to spend 10 minutes at least with each of them. Outside of some ragabash that are trying to trick me, I should have a fairly good idea about at least 75% of the characters' auspices based on their actions, what stands they take, what opinions they have, and so on. That is where I am a good role player in conjunction with playing with good role players. If you're playing with crappy role players, you won't know. If you don't know, you tend to blow those characters out. You get very apathetic. You don't even think about them. You know what? That makes you part of the problem. You're not nurturing those people. You're not trying to help them. And occasionally, they're going to be a lost cause. I can think of a few lost causes in our gaming community, but it's not always the case. Sometimes they just need a little help. That's all I'm going to cover with Philodox. I mean, in some ways, Philodox is a calling, and a good Philodox will always be remembered. A bad one is either going to be forgotten real easily, even when they're still in play, or they're going to be remembered for all of the reasons you don't want them remembered. So, okay, that's it for the Philodox video for now. Peace out, guys.